Hello, my name is Heike Knip, and this is SEO in 2025.
Heike, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My first SEO tip for 2025 would be that we need to see accessibility as a ranking factor, because I think that will be something that is going to be more and more important in the coming year and the years to come.
So why will accessibility be a ranking factor?
Because again, let's say if we look at the wider society, let's say people have different needs, different abilities and everything. So we need to have a look also with SEO, how we can make that more accessible, how it can be found better, how it better can be processed. And I'm a strong believer in that Google and other search engines will make this as a priority, because to cater better for people is the same thing. I need to say I've borrowed this from somebody who said before, I like to use with SEO, not search engine optimization, but search experience optimization, so that we improve the search experience for people. So even that people that have visual impairment, have other disabilities or anything else, can also find all the information online.
So how important will this be? Because we've seen Google bring in some ranking factors in the past and perhaps even published big pieces about how important it's going to be, but it's only actually been quite a subtle ranking factor in the past. So how significant will this be?
I think it will maybe in the beginning not be something major, but I think in the many years to come that it will become more and more important. Especially that, for example, myself included, is let's say more and more people are being diagnosed and find out that they have autism, ADHD, etc. But also we are getting more aware about other disabilities. Is the same thing is, let's say, with screen readers, image ID, etc. So there's a lot more information that need to be shared, and certain ways things are being looked up will change, because again, they will have a look at an image with AI, technology is changing, that's been read. So that's quite important, and also being more clear on the information what you give in searches and feed to the system, and much, much, much more with that.
So why do you think accessibility seems to be more important now than it used to be?
Again, it is catering for a public that was not catered before. And essentially, SEO was invented in the beginning to make sure that the internet is accessible for everybody. So SEO, in technically, we are going a little bit back to what we used to be before, making sure everything is accessible and everything can be found in a proper way. I think also, and again, what we see also with Google, with the recent updates, what they have with the useful content and the auto updates, is the focus is laying more on how well is the user served. Not, let's say, what is written there, but it's like, is it relevant? Is it correct information? And is this really what people are looking for?
So do you think we'll see a sudden shift in rankings, or is this just a subtle change over the next few years we're going to see?
To be honest, with Google, you never know. We have seen the algorithm updates where they say we have a subtle change and then everything crashes down. So I will not put my name against that. But I think what the plan would be is, let's say, especially with the technology changing, that it will be a subtle change over the next coming years. But I think it is something that many SEO agencies, but also companies, need to start looking in. And it's also one of the things, especially in Europe, the European Union to be exact, is with the new laws coming in there about accessibility of the websites. What is going to be law is also a good example that these things will be taken over by other organizations, and that will play also a pivotal role in how you're being found online.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the legislation. So obviously we've got the European legislation 2025. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's, before we go a long story about it, it is really to make your website more accessible for many users, be it visual, be it limited capabilities and many other disabilities, but also, let's say, people with dyslexia, that you can read and increase the font of the text, change the background, image ideas, really explaining what the image is about, and many other things, because also is, let's say, for people with a visual impairment, that you have a capability of reading what's on the screen. Again, coming back to images, why it is important that you have a good description with it. So that will be one of the things important with that, but it is also a part of it is including is accessible branding. And accessible branding means that it is also everything around it is that you can visually recognize everything and is not having a lot of issues with it. So it is quite a wide and important legislation. What will be in Europe will come over to the United Kingdom also over time. And also, as let's say, if you trade to the European Union, I would say start with it sooner than later, because the proposed fines on it are not small.
What are the easy ways to get started with it? Because what I'm hoping is that modern progressive CMSs are going to make it very easy just to ensure that the content's delivered in an accessible way. Can all the legislation potentially be served by using a decent CMS, or are there other elements that SEOs, UX designers are going to have to ensure that they check themselves?
I think there's always a human aspect to it. As a human aspect, you always need to make sure that you check if everything is up done to scratch and like that. But I think in the age that we live now, with the rapid development of technology, I think there will be CMS systems that can partially do it. There will be checks, but I still think at the end of the day, it is important to have that human aspect to it. Also having proper audits on the system and getting all outside information on it also.
You say proper audits on the system. How are those audits conducted? How do you know that your accessibility has actually improved?
I always advise to work with people and companies that use lived experience peer groups, stakeholder conversations, end user conversations with it, to have a look how it is now, what needs to be done, improved, making checklists, having conversations, consultations, etc. with the other party. It can be a quite in-depth and detailed report, but it can be also a smaller report with smaller details in it. But setting up a company for having at least certain things, because with websites and some things, there are smaller solutions to an issue than what other companies can have a bigger solution to.
Understood. Okay, so accessibility specialists are going to be producing reports, and obviously organizations will then have an opportunity to implement the findings in that report. Does that mean that some kind of audit will need to be conducted every few months?
I wouldn't say every few months, but I would say is the same thing as, let's say, with SEO. It is good to have a regular MOT, let's say like that. Check if everything is still working, everything is still up to date. Because the same in this situation and SEO, is everything changes all the time. So it is good to check and check other things. Is, let's say, it's always good to get feedback from the end user. Let's say how they experience it. It's the same thing as, let's say, what we do with SEO is, let's say, having a look with the results. What are the people doing on the website? What are the steps they're going through? Is it working? Are we reaching the right audience?
You say within SEO that everything changes all the time, and obviously it can do. Does this mean that there's certain software that you would recommend that can be used to monitor sites' accessibility performance?
There is, as I work with certain people that do these audits, there is not software at the moment specifically for it. You have different parts of software that can help checking on certain things. Some can have a look at what kind of colors you use, how accessible that is. Others can check again on fonts. Some combine some bits and pieces But I think especially with the beginning of next year, we will see more and more of this software coming up on the market and new developments and like that on there.
And what about software to actually crawl your site and maybe discover new accessibility issues that you weren't aware of beforehand?
Out of the top of my head, I don't have something directly. I know there was something that was said about that. There should be systems that you can do that. Is again, I don't know which one it was, but I forgot so quickly. My apologies for that.
That's all right. Well, you can have a think about that, and we can perhaps share that later on in the show notes. So when you maybe speak to a big brand for the first time, or maybe analyze the website of a big brand, what are maybe 2 or 3 most prominent accessibility issues that you tend to find?
The biggest one is normally always image ideas. It's like just having the image with no really explanation to it.
So just no alt text.
Yeah, alt text is, let's say, and with an image idea is also a little bit more at describing what's on the picture. So in that in more detail, again, also using fonts on pictures and backgrounds, makes it harder to read. It can be also, let's say, that it blocks certain software, let's say, what you can use as screen readers and other bits. Again, also making images or other things what is more built into the website, what's not accessible. There's quite a couple of things what can be an issue, but normally it is the images itself and not the proper use of color contrasts and all the other colors in the design what makes it harder to read.
Should we not be getting to a stage where screen readers, search engines are clever enough to be able to make sense of content, no matter whether it's marked up correctly or has the correct alt text on it, and perhaps we're looking to do things that may not necessarily have a very long lifespan?
Let's say, technology can read the websites better, but again, it's also making sure it is correct for the end user, the people who will look something up, go onto the website, and then read the information on there. Is, let's say, what I used to say also sometimes in SEO, I can send anybody to a website, but if the website is not up to scratch what the people expect, it will not convert. So there's always some things that you can do, but again, if you use image ideas and like that, it will help you SEO also. It gives the people a better idea what it is about and going to the website.
Got you. Okay. And if you're talking to an organization but they're not prioritizing accessibility, do you simply tell them about the upcoming legislation, or do you attempt to maybe put it in some kind of financial value perspective?
Both. I think it's giving the urgency of the legislation, especially if they are trading with the European Union, any of the countries within there, because again, if they don't, they are liable to fines. But also explaining how big of a chunk of possible income they are missing out within their service area. Because again, if you don't have websites or information accessible to the people that you want to reach and maybe potentially miss out on, can be quite big. Because again, if you're using, let's say you're selling products, but you use a lot of visuals, let's say images and like that to describe your products, but don't have an image description on it or name, is who has with a visual impairment, how do they know what the product is about? And there's still quite a good chunk of people that can say like, okay, this is not for me then, and go to your competitor.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest, thinking about accessibility in 2025?
I think especially make sure that you use correct image ideas and alt names on pictures, giving proper descriptions on that. So we should stop using just picture number 5, homepage picture, and like those descriptions. So proper alt names, proper text, and image ideas for that.
Can all of that be automated using AI?
Yes and no. I think AI is, myself personally, I am from a generation that grew up with the old computers and like that, but I think AI is a great tool to have. It helps people. I myself have dyslexia, just as an example, and it is a great tool to help me with certain writing and like that, but it will not replace good quality text. It will not replace everything as it is at the moment.
Heike Knip is founder at the Goog SEO Company, and you can find him over at thegoodseocompany.com. Heike, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure being here.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.